Greetings, and this is the Murid Talks Art, an analysis of various artworks in light of spiritual and traditional teachings. And in this episode, we shall be exploring the spiritual wisdom in Pirates of the Caribbean, Curse of the Black Pearl. Towards the end of the film, Governor Swan makes an interesting remark.
Perhaps on the rare occasion pursuing the right course demands an act of piracy. Piracy itself can be the right course.
Whilst piracy generally denotes the idea of theft, popularized by the sea robbers, the etymology of the word goes all the way back to the idea of proceeding forth, of trying, of risking. The pirate is one who charges forth despite the risk, usually against the status quo. As commonly used, piracy implies something more than a simple theft with violence at sea, and includes something of the idea of general hostility to law. It is worth noting that the pirate is also a pilgrim, a wayfarer, traversing the vast seas, never belonging to any one place. The pirate has in a sense left the comfort of the worldly life behind, a misfit, a rebel, a symbol of an outcast. In the film, Jack Sparrow is the very embodiment of this archetype, who also reminds us of the carefree nature akin to that of the Joker or the Fool, the Majnun. I am reminded of a few remarks from Alan Watts' sermon on the Joker. Quote, "In ancient times, all kings had at their courts a court fool. As time went on, the function of the fool became more sophisticated than that, and he became a person whose function was not simply to make jokes and to be a funny man, but to remind the monarch of his humanity so that he would never get too stuffy. See, that was in a way the function of the fool. He was reminding you of your finitude, of your mortality and death. At the end, in somewhat the same way as monks used to keep on their desks in their cells a grinning skull." End quote. But it is important to note that the Joker archetype could be seen from both the beneficent and the maleficent points of view, the latter being represented by the mutinous Barbossa and his crew, who overthrew Jack Sparrow in search of Cortez's treasure, itself a symbol of greed which consumes them and renders them neither alive nor dead, unable to taste any of the world's delights.
"We are not among the living, and so we cannot die, but neither are we dead."
To quote a similar idea in the Quran, 2074, "Verily, whosoever comes unto his Lord guilty, surely his shall be hell, wherein he neither dies nor lives." End quote. It is also interesting that the true hideous forms of the maleficent pirates are revealed in the cover of Night, under the full moon. This reminds me of the teachings of traditional astrology, which speak of the 7 heavenly spheres, the symbol of the ascending stations towards spiritual realization, usually in the names of the planetary bodies: Moon, Mercury, Venus, Sun, Mars, Jupiter, and Saturn. The world of forms and change is then denoted as the sublunary realm, our starting point, where one must escape the confines of this world towards the luminous heavens. An escape that requires that one goes through the very depths of this realm, what Dante identified as purgatory. As Miguel Asin Palacios notes in his book Islam and the Divine Comedy, quote, "It should be borne in mind that Dante's Mount of Purgatory rises above the southern hemisphere, which is entirely covered with water, and reaches to the ether, the last sphere of the sublunar world. Bordering on heaven, its base stands on the back of hell, the entrance to which is in the northern hemisphere near Jerusalem." End quote. The idea of water is also common in the myth of the traditional quest. We see it in Yonah, who has to reside 3 days and 3 nights in the belly of the fish, only to be returned to a renewed Nineveh, a symbol of resurrection and liberation from maleficence. A similar idea appears in the film as well.
How did Jack get off the island? Well, I'll tell you. He waded out into the shallows, and he waited there 3 days and 3 nights, till all manner of sea creatures came acclimated to his presence.
We also see it in Jesus, who walks on the stormy seas, a sign of one who has conquered the lower realm, akin to the Spirit of God hovering upon the waters in Genesis. Water can also symbolize the divine act of transformation, viewed as both a destructive and renewing force, akin to what appears in the flood of Noah in the Abrahamic traditions, or that of Manu in the Hindu tradition. In a sense, the one in need of spiritual renewal must set out to sea in search of his heart's desire. But for this, we do have to examine 2 other characters in the film. It is easy to view Jack Sparrow as the main character of the story, who in our case takes the form of the guide or teacher or reminder. But it is important to examine how William and Elizabeth fit into the picture as well. The name Elizabeth is said to derive from the Hebrew name Elisheva, which denotes the idea of God's oath or abundance. Elisheva is the name of Aaron's wife, Aaron being the first high priest of Israel. So it is important to remember this priestly status when speaking of Elizabeth in the film, who also comes from a royal family. But Elizabeth also appears in the New Testament as the mother of John the Baptist, who was God's oath to Zechariah and Elizabeth and a sign of abundance from him. William, on the other hand, is derived from the Germanic Wilhelm, meaning the will to protect. We see in William the symbol of the warrior or the knight in his chivalry, his work as an ironsmith, and his swordsmanship, but most of all in his sacrifice in pursuit of Elizabeth, God's abundance. The knight or warrior archetype also plays an integral role in the spiritual traditions, as can be seen in the narrative of King David in the Tanakh or Arjuna in the Bhagavad Gita. The story of William and Elizabeth is intertwined from the very beginning, when Elizabeth spots William floating from the wreckage of the burning ship, like a guardian spirit looking over the warrior who will come to protect her honor from all malicious forces.
I'm watching over you, Will.
But for this, William must be tested and must prove his worth when God's bounty over him is temporarily taken away. Will he traverse the dangerous oceans to claim it once again? And by what means will he do so? Of course, at first, William goes to the law, a symbol of our organized and institutionalized traditions and religions, but cannot find an answer there. The law, albeit being useful, is too rigid for his cause. For this, he must seek a guide that once appeared as an enemy, Jack Sparrow. In the spiritual path, the guide is essential in imparting the spiritual influence necessary for one to proceed forth. The experienced guide knows where it is the aspirant needs to go to reunite with his divine beloved. But this must entail a descent into hell, symbolized by the Ile de Muerta, the island of the dead.
Captain Barbosa and his crew of miscreants sail from the dreaded Isla de Muerta. It's an island that cannot be found except by those who already know where it is.
In this, I am reminded of the Sufi saying, "Die before you die." One wishing to attain union with the divine must choose voluntary death before bodily death takes them, as Jesus, who laid his life willingly as a command from his Father. The aspirant at first assumes that the methods of his guide are crude and against the law by which he has grown up to believe. But by embarking on this path, the guide lets him know that he must accept the fate of who he has become, or rather, of who he always was, a pirate like him.
The only rules that really matter are these: what a man can do and what a man can't do. For instance, you can accept that your father was a pirate and a good man, or you can't. The pirate is in your blood, boy, so you'll have to square with that someday.
With him, the aspirant must descend into purgatory and perchance amass some allies who will support him in his realization. The journey is not straightforward, and the aspirant is at times held back by the maleficent forces, even when his reunion with the beloved seems certain. This hurdle is a necessary stage to help him realize that the reunion will never be fully complete without true self-sacrifice. facing the darkness head-on and embracing who he truly is, as his master pointed out at the beginning of their journey.
It wasn't your blood they needed. It was my father's blood. My blood. The blood of a pirate.
In the journey, the aspirant loses his beloved and his master along with her in his descent to the island of the dead. It is here when the law catches up and must partner with the master in defeating the evil forces, the law remaining on the outside of the exoteric and the master penetrating into the inside of the esoteric. And we see how the law wishes to enclose the divine bounty in its institutionalized bounds, but such grace must truly penetrate into the depths of the aspirant for the final sacrifice, and only then are the evil forces conquered. To prove their true alliance, the aspirant goes towards the aid of his master and professes his love publicly in the face of the law despite the dangers, only to be protected by the divine grace whose heart truly lies with him. The law surrenders to this realization, and the master runs free, out towards the sea whence he came, having played his part as the wise fool. I shall close this episode with another quote from Alan Watts on the Joker. Quote, "When I bring up the Joker, of course, we are in a way discussing in terms of a game of cards, because the Joker is the card beyond roll, the card that's wild, that can be any card in the pack. In other words, it's delivered from being a particular someone and can be an anyone. And it pops up here, and pops up there, and pops up here. And you never know where is the Joker, who is the Joker. You see, the thing that we have to understand, really, is that all the roles are the Joker playing them. And the Joker is looking at you out of all pairs of eyes. There he is. Only he's pretending very often that he's not the Joker at all." End quote. This won't be the last time we visit the Joker's archetype, my friends. So don't forget to like, share, and subscribe, and leave your comments down below. Until next time, I wish you peace and goodbye.